Hello, and welcome to the Moose Hunt Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Fickett, and today I'm sitting down with teammates Rob Mayo. And new to the podcast, have you been on this before?
Yeah, a little guest appearance.
Well, this is our other teammate, Cody McDonald. It's a nice, I think it's like a negative 12 wind chill this morning.
Yep.
It's pretty blustery out there.
Crazy.
It's just a nice cold day. We all got the day off, so we figured we'd sit down and do a podcast. So let's start off with who exactly is Cody McDonald, since it's your first time on?
I don't know. I'm Cody McDonald. Lived in Maine my whole life, grew up here, hunted and fished my whole life. Addicted to it completely. It's to a fault, probably, if you ask my wife.
Yes.
So definitely dialed back fishing recent years with kids and stuff, and focused on hunting and moose hunting my whole life as well. I think my first moose hunt I was involved in was 4 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was it a family hunt?
Yeah, so my uncle, I would go to my aunt and uncle's every day after school. They'd watch us. So my uncle was paralyzed from the waist down in 1983.
Wow.
Yeah, he was working on an excavator. Excavator lag fell on him. Mm-hmm. Or he was crawling out from under it. The lag fell down, broke his back. So he's been in a wheelchair ever since. But he's just like a crazy outdoorsman. Just anything. Super resourceful. Would like do it all on his own. And so it's like every day I would go after school and we'd shoot bows or go hunting or fishing or whatever. So he pulled the tag in 97, and I don't know if it was October or September. I'm thinking it was October because I was there on Monday, like setting up.
Was that like Columbus Day or whatever?
Yeah, so I think that's why. And then they took the moose a few days later, and when they brought the bull down to show me, they brought me back up so I could help them break down camp and stuff. Yeah, so it was awesome. Yeah, he's a huge bow hunter. He wanted to take it with his bow, but ended up going with the rifle because he had a stand built in the back of his truck. Like
a tuna tower?
Well, no. Well, it wasn't built up. It was built down. But since he couldn't get out of the vehicle, he sat up there and built the platform and built it with a seat out of a car so he could swivel.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right, because he needs a backrest because he's paralyzed from the waist down, so you can't just sit, up on a board. Yeah, he took a nice bull. He's taken a bunch of moose scents, deer, and all that. So that was the first time I got the bug. And then we were on a good track where he was getting tags, my cousins were getting tags. So growing up, I was moose hunting a ton.
Well, we know a few of those families.
Yeah, I'm not one of them. So then I with college and work, I hadn't moose hunted for a few years, and I kind of just was like, the dogs aren't happy with me.
I'm going to apologize right now. The dogs had to stay home today, so they're kind of being little mascots, but they bark at everything that moves. So,
but no, so I kind of I was like, man, what am I doing? If I lived somewhere that didn't have moose hunting and I was looking at a state that did, I would be like, I need to be moose hunting every year, and I would be. I was like, but I'm not, So I ended up getting in touch with some people. With Dylan Stevens, reached out about guiding bird hunting for Nate. He was looking for a bird hunting guide. Yep. I was like, well, I only have 2 dogs. I'm not really interested in that. And then I researched OMM, saw they were into moose hunting. I was like, hey, that's something I'm interested in. And that very first year, my son was born in October. Yep. So it was the 8th. And I believe the hunt started on the 10th. So
that's not going to work.
I'm not guiding. And my brother got pulled for his first tag in October.
Oh, really? That same year?
Yeah, so it's kind of a double whammy. So I did all this.
So did you still go moose hunting?
No.
Oh, yeah. I know that wouldn't fly over well.
No. I don't think 1 day old with our first kid and then heading to zone 2 would be a good call. Mm-hmm. No, but he took a nice bull, 46-inch bull.
Nice.
But I got to do the scouting and run trail cameras and stuff with him and stay in con. I was just living vicariously through him on my phone every day when they get back to camp. So that's kind of how I got into guiding with OMM, and then I've been doing both seasons since, which is awesome. It's a huge sacrifice, obviously, with a wife and kids. But my wife's awesome. We got a great family that chips in, help some of the time that I'm
Yeah,
going.
when I first started, when I first got my guide's license, and I think it was actually one of the instructors in the test in the oral boardroom. He flat out said, guiding is a really selfish career. Because it's essentially you're doing what you want to do and you're leaving your whole life behind. And that kind of stuck with me, and it really is. So it really helps to have that great backbone back home. The family to help out for that. I mean, I had my own kid a year ago, and I guided this year, and I left my wife here alone for it. And the family has to help out, and
it's tough because they're still working, and then you're like, you can't have troubles at home and try to focus on the moose hunt at the same time, and then you can't have like your passion become their nightmare kind of thing, So
because then they'll really make it not fun for you anymore if that happens.
Yeah, and you don't want to put your wife or your kids in that position, but hopefully you have someone who's able to allow you to do those things. Yeah, and obviously you got to set the groundwork. You can't just be like, hey, I'm deucing. Try to do some nice things around the house or whatever and stay in contact.
Yeah, I always trying to line up like family watching the kiddo or whatever to help out for a day. Yeah, at least, I don't know, does your family live close or her family live close?
So we're kind of in between them. Her family lives right down here, so they're like an hour and a half away, which isn't bad. And my mother lives like 45 minutes away, and so she helps out a bunch, which is huge. And we schedule it way ahead of time, so we get that taken care of. And he thinks it's cool because he's like 2 now, so he's really getting into watching some videos. But I got to make sure I'm FaceTiming home so I can say what's up to him and stuff. Because when they start getting a little bit older, like this past year where they know dad's not home or whatever, which it's about 30 seconds, and he's like, that's cool. I'm
over it. All right. He still exists.
Yeah, he'll be like, Daddy Moose, and then he's gone. You know, so it's been super cool to be able to still do it. Yeah. And I didn't even, when I first got my guide's license, I was like, I'm not going to do any hunting because I'm really not a guide. I'm like a hunter, you know? And so I was just like, I'll do some fishing trips. So I got my fishing guide's license first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then they were doing the thing where you could also test for your rec if you went in for something.
Yep.
You could just take the test, and then if you pass
I did that when I took my hunting test,
Yeah, so I was like, I'll just go back and grab my hunting one and get the recreation just to have it. Yep. And then that's when I was like, well, let's get into the moose hunt deal, which has been great because we got done with OMM, and then there's so many guys you can, you kind of have this, you're in a bubble, so you think you know how to hunt moose and kill moose, and then you get around guys who are up 10 levels from you.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it literally has cut my learning curve, I mean, over, I would say by half, but it's probably even greater than that because you got when you add up all the years of experience, and then you can kind of pull things from each guy and put that in your own style. Mm-hmm. And plus, if you're just going on family hunts, can you go on one hunt every year? That would be crazy. Friends or family to get one every single year. Yeah. So then you're doing, say you do both weeks, now you're doing 2 hunts, then you're tagged out, you're going on with another guy, or you're taking a standby, or who knows what, and all of a sudden you've got 10 years of experience.
In one season.
In one season, I mean, how many moose do we pack out? I would say average week, we're packing out 5 to 10 moose, depending on how your 100%. Hunt goes.
At each camp.
Just that pack out. Yeah. Right? And then if you're coming in on a guy's hunt, I was so lucky my first year. Tommy tagged out first thing. Yeah. So he came on with me. So it was a great resource to have Tommy. And he came on Tuesday with me on my first guided hunt. And we hunted this road system. And the next night he was like, he's like, yeah, everything was good, but why are you going so slow? I mean, I was creeping, and I usually hunt super aggressively, but it was something I guess I had in my brain with clients and stuff, and I was going really slow, and I was like, you know what? That's a very good point. Why am I hunting differently than I normally would? Mm-hmm. And it actually paid off because that Tuesday night, we'd been watching this cotton calling, and 15 minutes before dark, a bull pipes up. It's like, man, we can see, and he's up on this knob. It's I don't know, maybe this is the Poliot hunt. They had Poliot.
Oh, so this is when you dropped your GPS?
So I do need to correct that because it wasn't my GPS and I didn't drop it. Okay, I forgot my rangefinder.
Ah, okay.
So, but yeah, anyway, like there was a cow. That cow's track was inches from my GPS, and we were actually standing right where we were sitting the night before when we killed the bull. But anyway, that bull piped up. It was like 15 minutes before dark, and it's like, oh man, it's gonna be super sketchy to get this. But maybe he's gonna come in on a string. So he grunted a few times, and was like, "Hey, get ready!" Like you could see a long ways up these strips, uphill, and then a cow starts bellowing. It's like, well, the jig's up, And we waited a little bit. They didn't come out, and it's just legal shooting. And it's like, let's get out of here. So we just ran up the road, got back. And we're like, well, we'll come back here in the morning. So we play the whole thing again. We go in the morning, and we start coming down the road. And it's like, okay, we got a bull and a cow. So I'm going to come in bull grunt and raking. And they had said ahead of time, they were in for the experience. They didn't care the size of the bull. So in the back of my head,
those are awesome clients.
They were the best.
I love it when that happens.
Father, son, and the tag holder's best friends.
Yep.
And they were great. I could not have gotten better clients. And I was like, well, let's just let's act like a small bull. We won't get too crazy because I don't want to get in a situation where it's a small bull that for some reason has a cow and I spook him off, right? And that messes up what could be a great opportunity because I want to kill a big bull. So we start going down the road, raking, bull grunting, real subtle. And they pipe up, but they're way down here on the opposite side of the road. So I'm glad Tommy had mentioned that to me the night before, is because I started sprinting down the road. I was like, come on, we got to go now. So we run up there. We stop right before the opening. They're like down in the woods, super thick. Grunt again, rake, and the bull fires up. So now Tommy's like, yeah, I'll just stay back here. So we keep going. We're probably like 100 yards from Tommy. We play the whole scene out, raking, grunting, and he just starts flipping. I mean, flipping out. You've probably guys seen the video.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where I got both shooters in front of me, friend is behind me, and I just have my hands on their backs. And this bull, we can see trees 30 yards away, just getting annihilated. So I'm thinking it's a big bull. And Tommy had said he thought he heard one grunt deeper in the woods.
Yep,
which we never heard. So I think it was probably a small bull. He came to address the threat.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, who knows? If I would have went crazy, maybe I could have spooked the small bull. Big bull comes out. You don't know. But it couldn't have worked out any better than it did. So I'm slow playing him, and he's freaking out. So now we watch this tree get annihilated like 30 yards in front of us. Can't see the bull. Well, it's a dip. So now all I see is like a shark coming through the waters. All there's just moving. It's like, why can't I see this bull? Why can't I see this bull? And then he comes to, they measured after the fact, they said 13 feet. That's where we shot him.
Is that what the shot was?
And he stops and he kind of looks up because he can see us standing there. And they both shoot frontal shot, two perfect shots, right side by side. Bo was dead right there.
Awesome.
And it was over. And they just had it couldn't have been any better. And that's exactly what you want.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect. Right in the ditch.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better experience as far as the bull coming in, grunting. And, while we were getting the bull out, they went in to look at what he was raking, and he had, snot and stuff all over the tree. I mean, he was so fired up. And, I mean, when it plays out like that, it's great. And October this year, my client killed the first probably 15 minutes. And this was more of the traditional Maine moose hunt, I would say, because we were driving up. It was an area I had killed in September, and it was easily accessible. There were cuts, so it's going to get pounded. We get in there early, way before legal, and we counted 7 trucks
already
that were
there,
parked different places.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh man! So I'm just figuring I'm going to get up to my road. And there's going to be someone there, and I'll turn around and go to another spot. We got plenty of time. Well, we got up there, and there's nobody at that road. And it was the last road in the road system. I'm like, what are the chances? So I parked the truck, and I told him, listen, we were going to park here and listen because in September, we had bulls on both sides of the road, and then we can make a play according to where they are. I was like, but we can't walk this road because somebody will drive around the truck's parked on the side, but there's 2 hidden cuts at the end. We were going to walk the whole road in case there was something closer. I hadn't been seeing them. Rob actually was in there with me the day before.
We went out with the drone,
Yeah, we had the drone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You had that photo of the drone. Yeah.
The wind was terrible.
We got that moose on video.
Yeah, we had the same moose on video.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
You had Rick with you.
Yep.
And I was like, well, I'll show you the road system.
Yep.
And the wind was kind of messed up, so I didn't want to walk in those hidden cuts and look. And I already knew what they looked like. I was like, well, let's just pop that drone up. And he was in one of those hidden cuts with a cow.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is perfect. I had trail cameras of him and stuff. And that was my plan, was we'll walk and we'll get to the back. I think it was probably a mile to those hidden cuts.
Yeah.
And then it was tough getting in those hidden cuts, especially the one we'd seen him in the day before.
Yeah.
Just crazy slope.
Yeah.
I was like, what we'll do. So I said, well, we're going to change this. We'll wait till we can see good, and we'll just go in this road slow. I don't expect them to be out here because they've been pressured. But at least that way no one drives past us, and then we'll get off in the road and do what we want to do, walk and call. So he hadn't done much hunting in North America. He just come back from Europe. And
oh, really?
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
What did he hunt over there?
Oh, man, he hunted. So his backstory was he had his own business, and his wife, worked in a different field, and then she had an opportunity in Europe. Like Switzerland, I think they lived.
Oh, so they lived over there.
So he stopped his company. They went over there. So then he was like, he would go on a vacation and he would just hunt and take his kids and stuff. So he'd hunt all kinds of stuff, which Europe's a completely different style. But he had hunted the mountains. He had hunted farmland. So he's like, he was a great guy. He really was. And he was like, I want to shoot a decent bull, and I'll rely on you to tell me if it's decent or not. I was like, okay, yeah, that's fair. And so we start up the road, and there was a cow, and I stop, and I'm like, hey, you see there's a cow right there? And there was no bull with her. And I point the cow out to him, and he's like, oh, probably by the end of the week, I'll know, I'll be able to pick him out too. I was like, yeah, you're just not used to looking for a moose.
Get an eye for him.
But we come off the road like 200 yards, dude. And he's like, oh, stop, there's a bull there. And I look over, and I'm like, no, that's a cow. And he's like, no, back up. So we back up. And I'm like, yep, that's a bull. So I grab my binoculars and I'm like, yeah, that's the bull we were looking at. And he's looking at the bull in his binoculars and he's like, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? So we're talking it over and I'm explaining. I'm like, I think he's probably 40 to 45 inches. He's got decent fronts. He's kind of cool. I was like, he's not a giant, but he's a really nice bull. He's definitely above average. I mean, he's a nice bull. And he's like, well, what do you think? Can we do better? I'm like, well, we can always do better. We can. And so now in my head, it's been a solid minute, maybe 2 minutes. I'm like, this is, it's never going to happen. A bull and cow are going to run off, and we'll say, like, that's what this style of bull looks like, and we'll make a play on another bull in here. And so we looked it over, and he's like, you know what? I think that's the one. It seems like this is meant to be. And he had told me on Sunday when I met him, he's like, I'm the luckiest hunter you've ever met. And I was like, oh, cool. He's like, that's what everybody tells me. And in my head now, I'm like, this guy was not lying. So I was like, okay, well, he's like, yep, I think I'm going to shoot him. I'm like, okay, well, in my head, I'm like, I don't think this is going to happen. So I left the windows in the truck and everything up so we could talk. I was like, let's just, you get out, lower up, I'll come around, blah, 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 blah. So we get out, and I come around, and he was super calm the whole time. And I'm like, okay. The cow stepped in front of him, but she was exactly in front of him.
Oh, yeah.
So it was super deceiving. I was
you
like,
got to be careful about that, too. Because
And
sometimes you can't even see her if the bull's big enough.
They just disappear.
And that's what it was, because he was down lower than her.
Yeah.
She was up high. And it was a nasty cut. And I was like, just don't shoot. It's the cow. He's like, yep, I see it. He was calm. Everything was great. Cow moved off, and he's still standing there. I'm like, this never, I mean, I know people shoot bulls this way, but this has not ever happened for me. So I'm like, okay, pick a hole. It was a nasty slash cut uphill. So pick a hole, touch it off. So he shoots, hear impact, good shot. And I had told him, just put one bullet in the gun because we don't have time. So I'm just looking at him through binoculars, and I'm like, okay, shoot. He shoots. I'm like, okay, good shot. And the bull just stayed in his own tracks, basically, but went 180.
Oh, yeah.
So I told him, I was like, okay, shoot again. And he just handed him another bullet. He puts another bullet in, he shoots. Bull takes a few steps. I was like, yeah. I was like, just put one in him. And I handed him another bullet. He put a third in. Boom, shot at me. He tipped right over backwards.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It was done. I mean, you couldn't see him, but we saw him rear up on his hind legs and tip over backwards. And when we went up to him, it was kind of cool. His horns were stuck in the slash, and his nose was straight up.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like, well, I guess you are the luckiest hunter ever. I mean, this was right off the bat.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we actually had, I mean, everyone else was still hunting, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So Troy Pelletier was around. He's like, I'll come help you. But everything worked out perfect. I mean, I had pictures taken, and we started to skin him as Troy shows up.
Yeah.
And Troy showed up with a jet sled, and it was all downhill. So
that was smart.
Nice.
I brought I think I brought 1 quarter down with that. And Troy's like, let me try this jet sled. And I think 2 loads with the jet sled.
Yeah.
Nice.
It couldn't have gotten any easier.
Wow.
So, you know, and we took a standby and stuff. But yeah, it was just, sometimes you got to take the easy one. Easy ones when you
100%, especially
Yeah.
if you have those hunters that are okay with that.
Yeah, and
Depending
like,
on, you know, the size or whatever it is. So.
and that's what he told me. He was like, you know, I'll do whatever it takes. But I don't need something crazy to get a moose. Like if we're given a gift, we'll take it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so it doesn't always work out like you'd hoped.
Yeah.
Like it's not always the craziest calling gun. And in October, you know, you don't get a lot of that anyway. So yeah, no, it was crazy.
Oh, it's pretty cool that it's the one that you had on the drone footage the day before too.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It was right like a cut or two away, but a bunch of cuts in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was in the hidden one with the drone.
Yeah.
That I didn't want to walk up and spread scent up
Yeah.
in there. And the wind was wrong, and I had a camera in there, and I was like, and this was early it was early in the morning, because we were getting out early before the clients came in to do some last.
Yeah, that was Sunday morning.
Check
the day before,
everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to walk in there and get that camera. And then he was out there with Rob's drone footage, which was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, so no, it was fun, and then I could give him, you know, the trail camera videos of it and the
history on
drone.
it. Yeah.
And we had looked at it the night before, and I had shown him, you know, like this is
what's in the area.
This is a nice bull.
Yeah. This is one that's in the area.
Yeah. And I mean, there's bigger ones, there's smaller ones, there's whatever. And he was like, well, I've never seen a moose before, so.
That's cool.
And he was super, super happy with it, and he said he had a great time, so.
That was a good one too.
Yeah, it was a great bull. He's 44 inches.
Nice.
Nice paddles,
Nice.
nice points. He had 2 big fronts on him.
Yep.
Nice.
It was kind of cool, yeah. So, I mean, a 44-inch bull is a nice bull. It's way above average.
It's all about
That's
the
a good
character, man. I think everybody gets all caught up on the 50 or better. But I've seen some 40s bulls that look way better than 50s.
Skinny,
Yeah,
not as
sometimes
wide,
when
but
they just
tall.
lay out,
Yeah.
their paddles might only be, this big, 12, 16 inches tall.
Right. Yeah.
But they just lay out.
Or
But
big
you've got
fronts or character.
like you got all the character. Like case in point, last year with the crossbow, that he was 48, which is still a big bull, but his paddles were just ridiculously
He looked
tall
huge.
and just points everywhere. And it's like it's the character I think that makes it look so much better.
Sometimes that spread doesn't do him justice.
Yeah.
A 48-inch spread on the crossbow is like, well, 44 inches, that's a big bull. But a lot of people have that 50-inch mark.
Yeah.
Well, you could shoot a 50-inch bull that's way less impressive
Oh, yeah.
than
Yeah.
a 48.
Yeah.
So it's all relative, and it's all whatever you're happy with. Some guys are happy to take any moose,
Oh, yeah.
Just to
which
get
is
the
fine.
meat,
You know, it's not what we want to shoot, it's what the client wants to shoot.
At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's what they want to do. Yeah.
From a guide perspective, selfishly, you want to shoot the biggest
Oh,
bull
yeah.
every year, but
Yeah.
that's just not a realistic possibility. So, no, man, it was so fun, and luckily, when you shoot one in the first 20 minutes of the season, you want to hope it's not a terrible pack
Yeah.
out. Because,
Well, you were lucky Troy
You're
was
on your
available.
own, yeah.
So that's
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Troy was available. Troy would do the work of like 3 guys.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And the guy was getting him mounted anyways, and so I asked obviously before we start cutting, you know. And he's like, well, I was going to ask you if you have any recommendations. I was like, well, it's funny you mention that because there's going to be, in my opinion, the best moose taxidermist I've ever seen is going to be driving up here at any minute.
Yeah.
So then, you know, we're caping him out, and I was like, Troy, you want to just work on the cape while I do the hind end? Because in Troy it takes about 10 minutes and the whole cape's off. So
That's what we did with Top Gun too. I was cutting the back end and he was on the front, and it was just like, he was flying. I'm like, man, I can't keep up.
Same with No Name. That same Monday,
No
you
Name,
shot
that's what
that
it was.
morning,
That's
and
what
then
it
we
was. No
did
Name,
No
yeah.
Name that night with
Troy's
Matt
just
Maloney.
flying through it.
Yeah, and Troy's just, I think it was starting to rain on us and everything, and
Yeah.
he's just going to town on that.
Yeah.
That's funny. So he did 2 moose that day.
yeah, and a couple days later, he had to go to the hospital, and he came back to the woods. He was like, yeah, what's up? He's like, I just got back from the hospital. He's like, I got like double pneumonia. But I'm doing all right. I'm feeling better. I've been sick for a couple weeks.
He's dedicated to the
I
cause.
was like, God, Troy. Yeah, but no, it was fun. And then I took another guy that night, the night they killed No Name.
Yeah.
And the next morning we went in, and we had a miss.
Yeah.
Is what happened. But
There was a lot of misses that
it was
week.
a tough hunt, and we hunted this down to a T, and we went right, and we stopped to look at this bed. We look up, and there's a cow running at us.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, here we go. You know, she was running at us out from a thick spot, so it was like, what's pushing her?
Why is she running?
So we stood there and listened. It was real quiet, and we were like 75 yards from that tee probably. And I listened, I don't hear anything. And I was like, let's go. And we ran back to the tee, got him set up on some sticks, because I was like, okay, she's probably going to come across this tee, and then we can see where we just were, and we straight ahead of us, we can see this tee. So I look up, and there's a cow. It's a real aldered in road. There's a cow coming from right to left in where that other cow was. So I was like, get ready. There's cows running around, something's going on. And then, man, this just mega giant comes out. And it all happened so fast because he didn't have time to range, barely had time for the shot. The first shot was kind of quick, but he was set up, and he was a good hunter, another great client. And so I grunted. He's 250 yards away. I grunted on him. Oh. He just he probably 2 steps, he's across the road. So it's like, as soon as I see him
Were you
grunt.
grunting with just your mouth, or do you have a
No, just my
like
mouth.
the foxtrot call? Or just
And he didn't stop. As loud as I could grunt. It sounded terrible.
Say 250 yards, you got to really belt that thing out there.
And he did nothing. So the third time.
Do it like a deer. You just yell, hey!
Well, that's when you say that's what I did.
Yeah.
So the third
Get him
time,
to stop.
Yeah.
it was like a half step on the first one, a step, and then he was about to go in the woods, and his foot nearest was up in the air, and I just yelled, hey. And it was like he stopped. He was going to put that foot down. And we got a few shots. I didn't hear an impact. It's like, what's going on? So I ran. He went across back where he came from, ran across the road, and then he's just standing there looking at us. So I'm like, get over here. We set him up. And he goes to come across the road, and we missed. And it's one of those things where pre-calls and talking to the guys ahead of the season, you know what they're shooting for a gun and all this stuff. And I knew it, but it wasn't ingrained in my head. And he was shooting a 450 Marlin.
Oh, that was the lever action guy, right?
Yeah.
I brought him to the range the day before, and he shot great with it. It's it's just not meant for
the guy's a serious hunter,
distance,
and he knew his gun. He knew he had his mil specs in his scope, and he knew it all. But it happened so fast. He wasn't thinking about holding high. And I ranged it later, and it was 244 yards. And so it was a significant drop.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 2 feet almost. Probably.
And it was too mud. It was like soft, high, muddy grass.
So you couldn't even see where it impacted.
Couldn't see it. And I was watching the whole thing through my binos, and you couldn't see the impact. And we go down there looking for blood. The cow is now coming out where we were, and she's doing
back where you were just shooting
just
from?
standing from.
Oh, man.
So I was like, get on your sticks, and she's doing she's bellowing, but she's annoying, you know, real short chopping.
Yep.
So she steps in the woods and just starts bellowing again, wanting him.
Yep.
And it was like, get ready. This time I got the range out because we had discussed a little bit what could have happened. I was like, okay, this time she was closer down the road. So it was like 150 yards. Like, just shoot him at 150.
Yep.
I think that was like his first or second dot down in his crosshairs. And the bull never came out. So I was like, okay, he's probably hit then, you know. And it was a clean miss.
Yep.
And we got in some super cool interactions the next couple of days in that same area. And we passed small bulls. He wanted a big bull only.
Yep.
But it was fun, and we had a good time. I don't think he'd ever hunted Maine, and he was into landscaping and stuff.
Yep.
So we got into a bunch of tamarack and stuff, so
Yep.
we could teach him a little bit about the tamarack.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I mean, I'm not good with trees, and
Yeah.
I get a little.
It's hard to be a Dana.
I'm not a. That's why I say I'm not a real guide like Dana and these guys.
Yeah.
I get a little too focused in on the hunt.
Yeah,
and
yeah. You forget to show people these
I
things.
forget
yeah.
to show people things and have the nice discussions
Yeah.
and stuff. Unless like it's like midday and we're having
Yeah,
lunch.
break time. Yeah.
Then my head's kind of like, oh yeah, maybe you should like actually
Fun fact
contribute to this stuff, and not just be thinking about on Onyx in your
Yeah.
own
Looking at
head, you
maps,
know,
yeah.
be a little personable.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it was super fun, and I don't know. I guess I kind of went on a tangent there. So
No, hey, that's great.
feel free to cut me off.
No.
whenever.
Let it roll. dude.
A
Those
bit of a
Monday bowls
tyrant
are like
kinda guy.
bittersweet, though, aren't they? Because it's like, oh, that's awesome, we got
Yeah.
one, but
Dude.
man, the adventure's kind of over on this one.
For
already.
me, Wednesday.
I love it.
Wednesdays
the
and
best one.
Thursdays.
You
I
gotta go
love.
through some hardships,
Wednesday
some
morning.
bad weather
Yeah.
at least one day.
You get the
It's got to be
experience.
a full adventure.
Hopefully you've seen some moose, you get some experience, but you haven't got into where the clients are starting to get a little panicky,
Or yourself getting a little panicky.
or yourself. Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, if you've had like say it's Thursday and you haven't been seeing a lot of moose, yeah, you're panicking. If you're seeing moose, you're like, it's
Yeah.
gonna happen. But yeah, so I was like, you know, a Wednesday, like that very first client I had with Tommy and stuff, that was Wednesday morning, and that was perfect.
Yeah.
And then usually at that time, then Wednesday you get that bull. Wednesday morning, get him taken care of. Wednesday night you get out with the guys, and then like one of the best parts for me is being able to contribute with other guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're either scouting for guys or you're dual calling
Yeah,
with
you're going
them,
out
or,
hunting with them.
or
Yeah.
whatever you're doing.
Following and seeing how they do it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh yeah.
Love it.
Because anytime you can hunt with another guy, you could see their perspective and how they're looking. Like, let's see, Brando came on with one of my hunts this year, September this year, and Brando's a unique guy.
Oh, yeah.
I think anyone who knows Brandon can say
Yeah.
that. So he looks at things completely different, and he's doing stuff, and I'm like, wow, that I never looked at it from that perspective, and it really changed things. So it's like a bunch of stuff I could incorporate into my own hunting style that really worked out, and it has already paid off.
Yeah.
And also a great guy to learn from because he's so relaxed
Yeah, oh,
all
yeah.
the time. I mean,
Yeah.
he doesn't get rattled, and he kills big bulls
Oh, yeah.
year after
Yeah.
year, and it's just like those are the kind of guys you want to learn from, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was super cool, and especially being able to, I think I had met you at the lottery,
Yep.
but I never
Last year, yeah.
spent any time with you.
Right.
So it's that Sunday, and I never met
We
Rick
didn't even
before.
plan to meet at that
Yeah.
road.
No, we
I was
just happened
showing
to
Rick.
meet
I was
there.
like, "This is a road system. A lot of people will be."
Oh, you guys weren't even riding together? You
No,
just
no,
happened to be
And then Cody's truck was there, and I was like, "Oh, huh."
Oh, I
That's
see this
cool.
truck pull in, and
Yeah.
I'm like, no, dude, because I hadn't seen any. I knew people would be in there, but I hadn't seen anyone scouting. So I was like,
Yeah.
people are probably just gonna ride through.
Yeah.
See that truck? I'm like, dang. And then I was like, oh, that's Rob, and I never met Rick before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was just like a great dude.
Rick's
Yeah.
awesome.
He's the
yeah, I
man.
hunted. Well, yeah, I hunted with him that whole week.
Yeah.
What a pull.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
he's
know How
awesome.
we got Rick, but
Yeah.
he's the
Rick's
man.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we got to spend a little time scouting, like getting to know each other. They hopped in with me, and then
Yep.
Rob had a drone, and just super cool, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a good way to. I don't think there's any better way to get to know people than riding around in the woods
Right.
a little bit in the
Oh, yeah.
truck and
Yeah.
and stuff, and then we can all just learn from each other, you know.
Yeah.
So no, that was cool.
That was my first day hanging out with Rick too. I was like, get in the truck. We're gonna go drive
You
around.
know, that's another thing too. Is like you know you wouldn't really have those interactions
No.
probably in normal life, but it's
No.
like hey, I'm here to help. Like, what's everybody doing?
Yeah.
And then a guy just like, yo, hop in with me, and then get to know him. And
I think that's one of the things that I really like about hunting is it's a good common interest to have with people, and you can really get into some like great conversations and just instantly create a bond with somebody.
Yeah.
And you
100%.
just get along. Perfect.
yeah, you already got that common thing,
Yep.
and then even and that's kind of like breaks the barrier.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's definitely the
You know how many
icebreaker.
different people?
Yeah, the
we get?
icebreaker. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know, that was my biggest thing, being nervous about becoming a guide, is like meeting strangers. There's going to be
Yeah.
2 or 3 strangers in my truck. I'm not even going to talk about, but you meet everybody, and everybody's just excited about a moose hunt.
Yes.
Yep.
Everybody's
yeah,
excited.
Yeah.
You go in with a positive attitude.
And you meet so many people from different walks of life who may have different views and stuff,
Yeah.
but you have that one common thread, that conduit.
Yep.
And then you get into that, and then you can, you know, when you're spending a week in the woods with somebody, you get into all these different conversations, and you get to learn from a lot, especially a lot of times the guys are older than us, and maybe they've been successful in another field or something, and they live a completely different life.
Yep.
And then you get to learn from them, and they get to learn from you, and I think it's a perfect segue to just get into those conversations with people. Yeah, so no, that was cool. And then you get to meet, like, the first time I met Tom Keeber, who was a helper.
Yep. Yeah,
this
he was a
year.
helper this year,
Awesome
right? Yep.
pickup.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, another absolute
guy's
stud.
Yeah.
So the night they killed Top Gun, you were on Top Gun
Yeah.
pack out,
Yeah.
and I was on Brando's pack out.
This is September this year?
Monday, September.
Monday, September this year. Yep.
So I dropped clients off. They're like, yeah, we need help. We got a bull dead here and a bull dead here, and they're both bad pack outs. I think yours was 1.2 miles.
Top Gun?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Brando's was 0.9. So Rich Spies hopped in my truck, and we hadn't eaten, but we had the night before all the appetizers and stuff, and I had a fridge in my room, so I just went upstairs and got a whole tray of chicken wings and put it on the console. I was like, Rick, let's eat some chicken wings.
Yeah.
I'd never been to this place. I was
Yeah.
like, let's find it. We run into Tom Keeber in the roads. He's like, I'm trying to find it too. It didn't have cell service,
Yeah.
so he's like, Tom, find us, whatever. We get way back in there. Ben Pride was there. We get way back in there, and most of it was a winter road, but it was so grown up. It was like when it's in the dark and you have a pack on, you can't make a path, and the grass was so high. But like the first 300 yards of it was just where they'd come in and thinned.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like spruce laid over
Yep.
spruce,
Yeah.
and some steps would be like up to your waist.
Yep.
So we had a great time. Brandon's in there.
Isn't it crazy that you just find,
Dude.
good company in misery?
Yeah, and that was the first time I met Keeber.
Yeah.
Suffering together.
So on the walk in, we're all chatting, and we get in there, and then it's like, okay, who's going to take the head in the cave? And
Yeah.
I like to horse around,
Yeah.
so I was in there just being dumb, talking, saying I was a genetic specimen and stuff.
Yeah.
I just joked around. Like, I'm not a big guy, obviously.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, who's going to take this head in this cape out? And everyone's just like standing around.
I love it.
And Casey the client is the man. His daughter shot the moose. He's just an absolute stud of a bull. And they're like, well, you were talking about your genetic specimen. And I'm like, dude, once again, my mouth gets in trouble. So I'm like, all right, load it up. Let's do it. And then, dude, I'm like worried. I get it on my back. I'm like, that's not bad. And then I didn't know they were still holding
Yeah, they let go of it.
I'm like, this is bad. So I'm trying to navigate through this slash, and there's some places I get my foot in, and it's like up to my thigh.
Yeah.
And I was like, how am I going to get my next step? It's like, once I get to the road, I'll be all right. And the road was just brutal. So I'm dying, and I'm just getting to the road. And I'm going up, and then like all of a sudden, like the voices are just getting farther and farther and farther. And it's heavy, and I can't see where I'm going. And like, this is
Not good.
bad.
Yeah.
And then I hear someone come behind me, Tom Keeber. Never met him before. I was like, listen, do not leave me. I was like, I need
Never
you.
leave a fallen comrade.
He's probably like, who is this guy? I was like, I need you to break the trail and tell me like when there's a hole or something, and I'm just gonna follow you. And yeah, he was my saving grace. Tom Keeber brought me out of there completely. he probably could have carried me and the quarter he had on. The guy's a unit, but
Yep.
yeah, no, it was just so fun because it's like you know, that's a memory that Tom and I will always have.
Yeah.
And we never even met each other before that time.
Yeah.
So no, it was awesome, man, and it's just another case of like hunting bringing everybody together. So
Especially in pack outs.
He was my saving grace in September too.
that guy packed some moose.
It was Thursday night. It was late. It was dark. I had to walk 2 miles to get signal because I left my my inReach with the clients. They stayed with the bull.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's sad. That's
I'm
a
gonna
smart
go get
thing to
signal.
do.
If you have a problem, push the SOS button. Like somebody will come.
I'm going to add that to the old bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good.
That's
that's
I,
a good one.
I never would have thought
But it
of
was
that
dumb
before.
because I left them with a satellite communicator.
But then you didn't have a way
and
to
then I walked away to go to try to get cell phone
You're the
signal.
guide. You're fine.
It didn't make any sense.
So that was a gated road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a
so
gated
you
road.
get it when you
couldn't-
get up.
You couldn't drive,
Up
but
to
as
the
soon as
top
you
of
get
the
to the
hill.
top of the hill,
Yeah.
you can get 1 bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I sent a message out, no idea if it even made it out, grabbed my pack frames, and I went back and we started quartering it. And then all of a sudden I just see a light coming down the road. I was like, somebody's coming. Thank God, somebody's coming. I go out and it was our 2 helpers were coming down on the e-bikes. We loaded up pack frames and they
that's awesome.
rode the e-bikes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a lifesaver.
So that was Tom and Austin.
Yep,
Yeah,
both of them, yeah.
Austin's a stud too.
Yeah.
He had some hilarious stories from
Yeah.
the first week.
Really?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think this was his first time moose hunting, or really moose hunting, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why he was helping in spotting. So yeah,
Both of them did awesome.
He got some awesome encounters too, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a fun one in
With
October
Tommy's?
when we went to
Yeah.
get Tommy's.
Yeah.
There was a bunch.
Yep.
You were there.
Yeah.
You, Rick, Maloney, us.
That was a heck of a drive in.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
We were out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
They
was
were
the
way
long
out there.
It was
But at
like the
least it was
very
an
most
easy pack
southernest
out.
point of
Yeah.
Zone 2.
Yeah.
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 But that was fun.
That was really cool.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
And it didn't take us that long either.
Well, they were waiting on us.
Yeah, they had everything bagged. They were ready.
they were waiting a while because they kept calling us and being like, "Where are you guys?" We're like, "We're on the way, but you had to go."
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. We're out
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere, but
Yeah.
somehow there was they had cell service.
Yep.
Somehow.
Right where they were
Yep.
sitting. Yeah. Nowhere else.
Yeah, I was like, I had no idea how they had cell service out
Yeah.
there, but sometimes you get it in weird places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that was fun. No, I think the pack outs are one of the funnest things for
I
me.
love
it. Oh, yeah.
They're just great.
love
September, we had an awesome one with Ben Pride, who I don't know if, as much as I love packing up moose, I don't know if I'm ever going to help Ben Pride ever again. Because every time.
Last year he had that hellacious one.
Dude, that was that was the worst one. That was bad. But yeah, this one I shouldn't say it. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't far. It was just thick and nasty.
Yeah.
And it was a brook and stuff
Yeah.
to get across. But
Walking through mud.
What-
100 pounds.
you
on
were
your
on
back.
the.
I wasn't there. for
No,
that.
you weren't there. Who was there? Benny Bouchard. Brando was on the hunt with him, so we had Brando.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there was some. Oh, and the client wanted to pack too, so he packed out. I think he packed out a quarter and the head and the cape part of the
Wow.
way.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. That was the guy that was his first big game animal. Wow. He shot a 51.
Wow.
Or 50, 51. I mean, it's just a great
That's
bull. And
awesome.
it was a crazy hunt, and Ben had to do all kinds of, maneuvering and shit. I mean,
Nice.
he really, Ben
Yeah.
knew what he was doing on that one. He killed it. But yeah, that was just another super fun pack out. Yeah, I like those ones.
Yeah. I'll never turn down a pack out.
Nope.
I love it.
Yep.
No, it is so
10 o'clock at night.
It's
Because
so
sometimes
fun.
I gotta go.
yeah, especially like when you get back from your own hunt late, like if you're way off somewhere and you get back and it's still fun. It's like, yep, I'll be right there. I'll go tell them inside we're not going to make it for dinner. Let's
Knowing
go.
the feeling of being out there with a moose
Yeah.
down and like, oh, I really could use some help. And
Yeah.
if people show up, it's just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah,
September Friday night, Kenny killed that
Yeah.
monster
Yeah.
bull.
yeah,
And it was probably 300-yard pack out, easy pack out. But we had a whole crew of guys. Couple clients came out to
Yeah.
help us, and
Turns into a little party.
it was
Yeah.
just like a party.
It's awesome.
No rush. Everything was just. It was a perfect night. Like we were standing there. We got the bull back in Kenny's truck. I sent you a photo the other day. Of
Yep.
that big bull in the back of Kenny's truck.
Yep.
And we're just sitting out there, just bulls all done, and it was like the most perfect night.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was awesome. But going back to that moose, that was freaky. That was disgusting how big that bull was.
Oh, how big
Kenny's-
he was,
I've
like weight
never
wise.
seen-
Big scoops.
Well,
for
I mean,
antlers.
he had a giant rack.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he did. But the body, when I walked up to that thing, I was like, I've never seen a moose this big in my life. The front shoulders were bigger than the hindquarters on most.
Really?
Like, you know,
Wow.
you figure what, like dressed out, a nice big bull is usually like 850,
Yep.
something like that. Dude, this thing, his front shoulders are bigger than most hindquarters off of that.
Yeah.
And I was hanging on to the hock when Kenny was cutting it loose, and I was going to put it in the bag, and I couldn't get my hands. Usually you can grab.
Yeah.
It like took a couple of us, and the head and the cape were so big we couldn't get it on the pack frame. Just the head, from the base of the
Really?
skull to the tip of the nose, was the length of the pack frame.
Wow.
So when you bundled the cape up,
Yeah.
we put, what did we do? We had 2 guys on the rack and 2 guys holding the back of the
cape?
cape to walk it out.
Really? I'd have been like, Troy, you got some extra sewing to do on this.
Yeah, right. It's a 2-piece cape.
It was incredible. I'm still
Wow.
in shock about it. I mean,
Yeah.
his neck,
Wow.
looking down through his neck from the
Yeah.
from the back, that was a giant. Which Kenny will never say, you know,
No.
like he wouldn't want to sound like he's bragging, but that was the biggest bull I've ever seen on the ground. I don't know what it would.
Yeah.
I can't look. I can't look at a bull and say what he would weigh
Yeah.
with any accuracy.
Yeah.
But dude, that thing was a true monarch. He was a giant.
Were you there for any of the weighing when they put it into the cooler?
No,
The weight of the quarters?
no, I
Yeah.
wasn't in.
I'd be interested to see that.
I would be too, because I was kind of wondering that adding up in my head. You know,
Yeah.
I would say the average bull, when you bring him in and you just weigh the quarters and the meat bags, you're at like 450 pounds.
Yeah, I think that's what my September bull was this year. I think it was 483. I think
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what we
So
had.
right, 450 to 500 probably,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, just judging by moose, you see that get brought out whole and weighed
Yeah.
800-900 pounds. Say, so I would be very curious to see what those quarters weighed, because a hind quarter is usually roughly 100 pounds,
Yep.
and there's no question in my mind his front shoulders were 100 pounds.
Did you guys cut the hocks off? Or did you leave them on?
Oh, the whole leg?
Yeah.
Take as much
Like
off
above
as
the
you could.
knee.
Yeah.
Above the knee.
Because that
we
saves
left
some
it
weight.
on.
And if he really was that big, you probably could have saved yourself some misery.
Well, the
barely.
pack out was right down to like a strip,
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
right to it. I mean, so you could not have gotten an easier pack out.
Yeah.
If this was like Brandon's bull that we were talking about, or even Top Gun, that road, that old winter road is not.
Oh,
very
yeah. That's
friendly.
what I killed on in September.
Yeah, so
Same
like
road,
that's not
yeah.
the gentlest. That's not a
No.
gentle pack out. And you killed across up where you go up and across.
Yeah, instead of going like
Yeah.
where Top Gun was shot, I had banged to left and went up over that beaver.
That's a
that
tough-
old covert out, and yeah.
You would have had a serious time. We would have had to do something special with Kenny's to get it through that beaver
Really?
thing, because
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, like you said, you couldn't
Well, then
really
you
get him on
lucked out.
pack frame. So yeah, no, if Kenny would have killed that thing in a bad spot,
Yeah.
wow, that would have been a fun one for sure. No, but it's just so many stories you could tell.
Yeah. On any of your family hunts, had you ever packed one out, or did you do it the old school Maine way?
No, it was just straight up like the main moose hunt.
Yeah.
You know, you hammer the roads and maybe sit and do a little calling, but yeah. So all the other hunts were road hunts, and how many did we have? A lot of cows. I think 3 or 4
Yep.
bull hunts that were all that way. Bring them out whole.
Yeah.
Load them up onto a trailer, and
Were you using like the capstan winches or chainsaw winches? Or?
yeah, no chainsaw winches. We had some capstans, yeah. Especially with 2 trucks, when you can get like a 90
yeah.
degree. You know,
Yeah.
one truck can drive down
Yeah.
the road and one can be hooked up to the ball. We did a lot of that. My grandfather shot a really nice bull when I was young, and that one we kind of could back right down the skid to get to it. It did some damage on the truck
Yeah.
eventually, but and got that one on a trailer. I'd never loaded one in the back of a truck, like you see a lot of guys do with the winch.
Yeah.
That looks pretty slick. I'd never done that. I was always with the trailer. But yeah, since quartering them, I would never take one out whole again.
Yeah.
You don't need all the rigging and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Even if someone were to shoot one in the road,
You need a pack frame and a knife,
that's it.
essentially.
That's it.
Yeah.
And if you shoot one in the road, that's even better. 'Cause you have an
Then you don't even need a pack frame.
easy place to work, and you just
Yeah.
put it in the back of the truck. And like, once you do a couple, I mean, 2 hours max.
Yeah, and that's
And
like
they're
if you're not
completely
even
done.
like, yeah,
And that's puttering.
Geez. Well, I mean, yours in October this year, we got that out
Yeah.
pretty quick.
Yeah. Even
Yeah.
your cow, we got out
Yeah,
quick.
yeah, like an hour and a half maybe,
Yeah.
and that's with taking pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
when you shot Saturday night, we
Yeah.
were all like, you were out there a ways too. So
Yeah.
we were all hanging around waiting
Yeah.
to hear if we needed to go out. And you were like, no, we've got. And Eddie, I don't know, were
Everyone's
you guys
already
on
done.
Eddie's in October?
Yeah, we showed up after like I think it was all done, or they were just pulling the last.
Yeah. That took
Oh, I
us.
was down there for that.
Yeah,
That was in the big
your
cut.
clients were
Yeah.
down there with
Yeah.
you.
That
Yeah.
took us no time
Yeah.
at all. I mean, it was a short pack, but as far as breaking the bull down, that was really fast.
Yep.
Yeah, once you do a few, it's just so easy.
Yeah.
And, cools the meat down, which October generally is,
Pretty kind of cooler anyways.
2022 is like 80 degrees.
Yeah.
But September especially.
Yeah.
But it's just so easy. And then you don't have to worry about it. I know a lot of people like to get the weight. So, yeah, you don't get
That's
the weight.
just another main tradition, honestly.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, after quartering them, it's just like, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
And so much faster.
There's a lot of times where I get into places too, and I'll ask the clients, like, "Hey, could you imagine trying to get a whole moose out of this?" It's like,
Yep.
no, not a
Oh,
chance.
dude, I've seen
We wouldn't
it.
even bother hunting
There's some
there.
guys out there who
Yeah.
are magicians. It's like, you shot that bull and brought him out whole? You're like, yeah, it only took us like 10 hours. Like, jeez.
Yeah.
You could have drove back down to Bangor, bought a pack frame, and drove back up north.
And if you're in an area where you can use a four-wheeler or something,
Yep.
I mean, it's tough to get a moose out with a four-wheeler, but if you had a four-wheeler already in the back of your truck
Yeah.
and you just quartered him, you could put,
Super easy.
Done that.
you could put, go ahead.
Yeah.
Must have been pretty slick.
Yeah,
that's
it wasn't
awesome.
too bad. Yeah.
Nice.
You know, a buddy of mine, he shot a monster bull, 57-inch
Yeah.
bull, mastic. I want to say it netted 180. But he wanted we got some dog issues.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Oh, we're just going to let it roll for now.
hopefully that wasn't on
Yeah,
camera.
right.
No, but he wanted to get the weight, and they shot it in a nasty spot, but it was a spot they could use the four-wheeler
Yeah.
in. And these guys got some serious experience moose hunting, so they brought him out. But yeah, he said, I can't remember how long it took him, but yeah, he said it took him quite a while.
Yeah.
Where I guess if you were the only one packing, maybe that's a
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
But with a couple.
Yeah, but if you're
guys
the
or
only
three
one packing,
guys-
then you'd be the only one dragging it out, too. So,
I hear a
Well,
lot
I
of,
guess
like,
if you had, say you
Right.
were on a family hunt and you had some older family members
Yeah,
who aren't
okay.
going to
Yep.
strap
Yeah.
a quarter on,
Yeah.
but they could, guide you and hook
Yep.
the truck up
Okay.
and drive the truck.
Yeah.
I understand it, but yeah, no, for me personally,
Yeah.
I am 100% sold on packing them out.
Yeah,
And it kind of adds to the
absolutely.
and
experience.
I never even would have thought about doing that until coming on the team.
Yeah,
It's something I never. Well, you always hear about it like out west, like
Yeah.
elk hunters, or
Right.
even in Alaska, people moose hunting, but you never hear about it in Maine. I never would have thought about it.
It seems like such a tough thing to do until you
Right.
do it, and
It's
it's like,
not.
no, it's actually if you have a decent, metal frame, pack frame, and you strap on 100 pounds,
Yeah.
and it's balanced nicely, you took your time, like it's very doable.
It's
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, even without a pack frame, sometimes it's kind of easy. If you, especially those quarters, you can kind of get them in the hook of your
Yeah,
shoulder.
yeah.
And if you're going, just a couple hundred yards or whatever, it's really not that bad.
Yeah. I mean, walking through / 200
But the
yards,
meat bag, on the other hand, do not try to freehand the meat bag. I did that with my bull in September this year on that same road where Top Gun was killed, and I got like halfway back on that road, and thank God Dylan Stevens is coming down the road with an empty pack frame. So I was like, dude, I can't carry this anymore. My arms are on fire.
and having, really you need like 6 bags.
Yep.
Right, 2 quarters, back
that's what I
strap, and a
bring.
meat bag.
Yeah.
But if you throw in a couple extra meat bags and break that
Break it up.
meat bag up because you don't have the bone and you have no stability
The meat
there.
bag's just a big giant bag of Jello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very, very helpful.
Yeah, I bought one of the Alps bags that I have. I bought specifically for the meat bag because it's got the sides that come in, not the side straps, but like the side bag.
doesn't
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like side canvas or whatever, and then you can just sucks it right in.
So you have the Alps Extreme,
Yep.
and do you have the meat shelf, the hard shelf?
Yep. It's got a hard shelf that comes out too, and it does that. And then I have like the Commander Elite 2 or whatever. That's like the metal one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the Commander whatever, which is okay. It works good, but then this year I bought the Extreme too, and that is tenfold better. And so Ben Pride has one that doesn't have the meat shelf on the bottom.
Yeah.
It just
kind of comes up.
Just the wrap comes up, which is really nice. But it's nice to have that meat shelf too. But with that Extreme, like you said, it has that netting that comes around. So you've kind of got it made for either one. Because that meat one, when you just have straps, you have like pockets of meat hanging out.
Well, I was just saying, as you're walking, you're bouncing,
everywhere.
and it's just pushing out each side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you have enough, depending on the pack out, but breaking that up with having a couple extra bags is like, if you're a one trip kind of guy, that kind of wears on you after it's a long pack out. You could probably do it quicker if you just did 2 trips, you know. But no, it's all fun stuff that you can just pick up as you go.
Yep. Yeah, and like we said earlier, you learn stuff from the other guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I remember the stuff that I had the first year I was on the team. Like I think everything almost doubled the second year because I saw stuff that other guys were using. I was like, oh my word, that's so much easier.
Stuff to bring,
I would rather use that than what I brought. Yeah. So you learn little tips and tricks.
And some guys have a way of doing it, like just on the quartering topic, they quarter a certain way.
Yep.
And it works out good for them. But for some reason, I'm incapable of doing it.
Yeah.
Like when I quarter them, I got to do one side.
Yeah.
I can't start from the top and do anything. And I got to take the front shoulder off first.
Yeah.
Some guys get the back strap out first, and then they don't worry about cutting into it when they
I
take
like
it.
to get the hind quarter off before I do the back strap.
Yeah,
See right where it. Like,
yeah,
rumple
exactly.
extends.
I'll do the hind and the front quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like
Take
to get the
them,
quarters
and then
off.
I've got just my back strap. I mean, you got to pay a little bit of attention to it. But yeah, some guys can pull that back strap out of there perfect. But for me, it seems like he's always in the wrong position.
Yep, exactly.
And his shoulder blade's pinching in on his back strap or whatnot. And get all that, get that whole side out. Don't forget the inner loin.
Yes.
Because
Before you roll it over
I
is
roll
the
them
best.
over, and it's like, okay, I got to roll him back and do it again. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it you that
It happened
that
to me
starts?
twice.
Yeah. Well, was it you that starts your cape and quartering at the stomach?
No, I go right up the back first cut.
I was with somebody
Really?
on somebody's cape and quarter, and they started at almost like they were gutting it, but they weren't gutting it. They were just starting
around
the
the
cape.
stomach?
Yeah, around the stomach, and then cutting from the bottom, and then rolling the hide up that way. I've never seen that. I've always started at the base of the skull and gone down to the tail,
Right.
essentially.
Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, I forgot.
I'll make that
can't remember
dorsal
who that was
cut,
then. Yeah.
right? And then I might work both sides a little bit just to get it started, but then tip him
Yep.
and continue it on. And I like to also do that circle cut, back where you can
middle.
start your cape.
Yep.
I like to do that before I start freeing up anything on the back end,
Yep.
on the hind quarter. Just for me, it kind of keeps the tension a little better.
Yes.
Like I've done it before where I've started the hind and I get up there and then you're kind of dealing with,
Yep.
and it's not as easy to get a nice straight. Yeah.
Yeah, a nice straight cut for that cape all the way around.
Yeah. I try to do that.
Yeah.
Ben Pride, I was taking I had never taken the hocks off, at the knuckle or the front or the hind. So on Brandon's bull, it was a long pack out. We're like, hey, let's take these off. It's like, yeah, sure. So I'm taking them off. Well, especially on the front leg, you can go below the kneecap or above the kneecap
Because there's that like pivot piece in the
Yeah.
middle.
And it is significantly easier to go below the kneecap. And I didn't do that. And Ben Pride was like, why didn't you just go below the kneecaps? Like, that's a great point. And then when you look
Were
at
you
how
separating it with a knife?
Yeah, just with a Havilon. I mean,
Yeah.
once you know, if you use your brain like Ben was doing and I was not, it's so easy, and you can have that thing off of there in 2 seconds with just a Havilon, and you know, just like doing the head joint. But yeah, I hadn't done it, and Ben was like, "Yeah, you can go below the kneecap, and it's tenfold easier." I was like, "Oh yeah, okay."
Noted.
Noted. I would have been over here.
I've actually never even tried it that way. I always bring like a 12-inch machete with a saw blade on the back of it, and I just saw it off real quick and it's good to go. But I'm sure that's a lot easier.
Oh, it's so easy. Yeah, you bend his knuckle.
Yep.
Right, and then you just push your blade in, but if it's a sharp Havilon, and you'll just feel it release.
Yep.
And then that's your opening. Then you go in there and you see like the ACL.
So just like the skull, separating the vertebrae and everything.
Yeah, and it's so much easier because then you can tip it. You know, like the skull, you got to make sure you're up at that very top joint and you have the nose tipped down and stuff. But yeah, now the knee trick, thanks to Ben Pride for that, because now
I'm going to try that this year.
Next time I'm going to know it. No, now I know what I look like I'm doing.
Yeah.
So like, I think a couple days later I was on a pack out. I was like, James out, and I think there was somebody there that hadn't seen it before. They're like, "Oh, you showing me that?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, you know."
I do this all the time.
Super easy. The biggest key is you want to go below the kneecap.
Yeah.
I probably didn't say.
That's
I
funny.
just learned that 2 days ago. But no, that was fun. Yeah, and it's just another part of like having other guides around. They just, you know, just a little thing like that just make your life so much easier.
Yeah, I even learned something from my hunter in September this year. That veteran Kuyu hunter that I had, when we were doing his moose, and he was taking out the inner loin in the back. I had never thought to cut that flank off, like that.
By the stomach.
That flank meat that's right there,
open it up.
and then the tenderloin's right
in
there.
there.
I've always like where the backstrap is. I'm always in there trying to slice it in and separate, but it's like just cut that flank meat off, and the tenderloin's right there. Yeah. I had never thought of that before. And he was like, "Yeah, just do this boom," and he pulled it out, and I was like, "Holy smokes, dude!"
I don't know where, I can't remember where I heard this, but if you've got him broken down pretty good, and you know, sometimes they're laying in a hole and it's push their intros up, you know, and it's an issue and you can't get in there and maybe you don't have someone to hold it back. If you can elevate that pelvis just a little bit, essentially what it does
allows
is
that to drop down a little bit.
It brings the spine up and it brings the internals down and gets them away from that inner loin a little bit. So I'm sure somebody told me that. I know for a fact I didn't come up with it. But so there's another little thing. Once you actually, State of Maine has a great video on it.
Yes.
Quarter.
Yeah, I've seen it on YouTube.
Inland Fisheries and Wildlife put it out, and it's a pretty slick video, which is a good resource if anyone's looking to do that. Yeah.
They got a good video with the cows too, finding the ovaries.
Yes.
Their video makes it look simple.
Yeah, we had good luck on mine.
Yeah. I think
we
all
found
of
yours
our
too.
cow
You
hunts
found
this
yours.
year we did pretty good.
Yeah.
But usually it's not so simple.
Yeah. They can really be hidden in there.
Yeah, they're small.
You think you have the ovary, you come back and it's just like a chunk of fat.
Piece of fat.
Yeah, they're like,
You're
that's
like,
not
nope,
it.
that's not it.
Yeah.
When it's pouring rain and you're trying to cut under a tarp and
Yeah. Well, cool guys. This was a good one.
Good talk.
Yeah, I'm glad we did
appreciate
this.
it.
Yeah. Let's so we're gonna cut this one, and thank you all for listening, and take care, and God bless.